welcome back to Storytime with Nanny. I'm trying to think. I think this is day 29. We're coming on along. We last read about America the Beautiful and how we're supposed to take pride in our country and our patriotic songs and our flag. And this is still out of the Abeka book called Footprints by Laurel Hicks is the editor and Mike Davis is the illustrator. Let's see. Where we read that. And okay, we also read Silent Witness and Child's Play and The Golden Windows. We read that too. That's what we, and Catching the Colt. That's where we last got to. This next story is called A Lawyer's Opinion, and it just says an old tale. One day, a farmer whose name was Bertrand went to his county town with a load of corn to sell in the market. He was very fortunate, for he soon found a buyer who paid him a much higher price for his grain than he had expected to get. So while his horses were resting and feeding, he set out for a little stroll through the town. As he walked down the main street, he felt very happy and at peace with all the world. He stopped to look at the pretty things in the store windows, and at one place he bought some little presents to take home to his children. Just as he was thinking of turning back toward the marketplace, his eyes were attracted by a small sign in a doorway. There was nothing remarkable in the sign itself, for it was very plain and contained but 3 words: Sloan Wiseman Lawyer. Bertrand stopped and gazed at it thoughtfully for 2 full minutes. And this is the office of the great Mr. Wiseman, he said to himself. Well, I've heard folks talk about the opinions he gives. They say that he's the greatest lawyer in the country, and that whatever he says is sure to be right. I think I'll go in and ask him for an opinion. It won't do any harm. He climbed the narrow stairs to the offices above and found there quite a number of people who were waiting to ask the advice of the lawyer. He had to wait for a long time, but this only made him appreciate still more the value of the lawyer's services. By and by his turn came, and he was shown into the room. Mr. Wiseman asked him to sit down, and then settling his eyeglasses on his nose so as to get a good look at him, begged him to state his business. The farmer twisted his hat uneasily in his hand and stammered, I can't say that I have particular business, Mr. Wiseman, but I happened to be in town this morning, and I thought I couldn't do better than to come in and get an opinion from you. I'm obliged to you for your confidence in me, said the lawyer. I suppose you've had some trouble and are thinking about a lawsuit? A lawsuit? Cried Bertrand. I should rather think not. I never had a quarrel with anybody in my life. Well, then, I suppose that you wish to have some family property fairly and properly divided? I beg your pardon, sir. My family lives with me in peace, and we have no need to think of dividing any of the property. Perhaps, then, you want some agreement drawn up about the sale or purchase of something? Not at all, sir. I am not rich enough to buy any more than I have, and I am not poor enough to be obliged to sell any. Then tell me, what can I do for you, my friend? I should like to get an opinion from you, as I think I have already told you. An opinion? Please explain yourself. Well, Mr. Wiseman, it's just this way. I've heard people talk so much about the value of your opinions that I think I should like to get one for my own use. I have the money to pay you for it, and I should be sorry to have to go home without it. The lawyer looked at him and smiled. Then turning to his desk and taking up his pen, he asked the farmer what his name was. Peter Bertrand, said he, quite pleased that the lawyer at last understood what he wanted. Your age? 40 years, or somewhere about that. Your profession? My profession? Ah, yes, you mean what do? I am a farmer. The lawyer, still smiling, wrote 2 lines on a piece of paper, folded it up, and gave it to the farmer. Is that all? Asked Bertrand. Yes, that is an opinion. Well, well, it's short, but so much the better. Of course you are too busy to write much. Now, how much does that cost, Mr. Wiseman? $1. Bertrand paid the money, well contented, bowed to Mr. Wiseman, and went away. Delighted that he had got a lawyer's opinion, when he reached home, it was 4 in the afternoon. He was tired with his journey, and resolved to have a good rest. It happened, however, that his hay had been cut for some days, and was now quite dry, and one of his men came to ask if it should be carried into the barn that night. "This night?" cried the farmer's wife. "Who ever heard of such a thing? Mr. Bertrand is tired, and the hay can just as well be brought in tomorrow." The man said it was no business of his, but the weather might change, and the horses and carts were ready, and the men were wishing to know. "Well," answered the wife, "the wind is from the west, and that doesn't mean rain, and it's so late now that you would have to work till night. No, I guess you'd better leave it till tomorrow." Bertrand, sitting half asleep in his big chair, had heard all that was said. He was wondering what to do when suddenly he remembered the paper which the lawyer had given him. "Stop a minute," he cried. "I have got an opinion that costs me $1. That's the thing to put us straight. Here, wife, you're a grand scholar. Read it and tell us what it says." The wife took the paper and with some little difficulty read these 2 lines. "Peter Bertrand, never put off to tomorrow what you can do today." "There's the very thing," cried the farmer. "Quick, hurry with the men and the horses and the carts, and we'll have the hay in at once." "But, Peter, it will make supper so late," said his wife. "What supper when I have an opinion from a lawyer? I'm not going to pay $1 for nothing. I'm going to follow that opinion no matter what happens." He hurried out to the hayfield and was the foremost in the work of loading the wagons and sending them to the barn, and not until all the hay was safely housed did he return to his home. That night the weather suddenly changed. An unexpected storm arose. The rain fell in torrents, and the meadows were flooded with water. The wet weather continued, and all the farmers in the neighborhood except Bertrand lost their hay. Well, he took the lawyer's advice, didn't he? He wanted an opinion, and he got an opinion, and that's a very famous old saying, never put off till tomorrow what you can do today, meaning let's not procrastinate. Let's get our work done today, and then if we got time later, or tomorrow, or maybe it's later in the week, once we get all our chores and work done, then we can have fun. And that paid off, didn't it? Everybody else lost their hay in that town, but he followed the lawyer's advice, and he got his hay in, and it was safe. And a farmer can't be without hay. Let's see. The next one's called A Birthday Party by Stella C. Shutter. "Isn't it beautiful?" exclaimed Grandma to Bobby and Alice and Pink. They were admiring the table decorated for Pink's birthday party. Everything was pink and white. The lovely white cake had pink candles and pink holders. There were pink candies and pink flowers and pink caps for the little girls and boys to wear. "And the ice cream is to be pink," Alice explained. "Pink ice cream shaped like animals, dogs and bunnies and kittens." "My, but isn't that fine?" said Grandma. "Now, my first party wasn't a bit like this. Maybe tonight, if you are not too tired, I'll tell you about my party." And that night, after they had told Grandma about Pink's party, she told them about hers. "We didn't have many parties when I was little," Grandma began, "and we never had regular little girls' parties. Everyone, big and little, came, and they were usually surprise parties. The guests would bring the refreshments with them. One evening as we were going home from school, the girls were wishing that someone would get up a big surprise party. Suddenly, Annie said, 'Why don't we get up a party for Sarah, girls? Friday is her birthday. Do you think your mother would care, Sarah?' 'We'd both help her,' Callie put in before I could answer. 'You don't need to do much getting ready for a surprise party. We could have it Friday night, and Saturday we'd both come over and help clean up the house.' 'Not a soul but Callie and me would know you knew anything about it,' urged Annie. 'We could have just loads of fun. I promised to think about it, and the more I thought about it, the better I liked the idea of having a party of my very own.' It didn't take much talking the next day to make me say yes. Annie and Callie were delighted and immediately fell to making plans. We agreed to keep it a secret even from Mother. The days that followed were full of mingled pleasure and pain for me. I was happy at the idea of having a real party, but it didn't seem fair to deceive Mother. Once I thought of telling her all about it, just as I had told her about everything else, but I was afraid she would say I was too young to have a party, and I had never been to a party in my life. Thursday morning, Annie told me that she had baked a cake and put my initials on top in little red candies. Callie said her mother was going to bake an election cake with spices and raisins in it. All day Thursday I kept thinking about the party. It wasn't off my mind a minute. I couldn't study for thinking about it, and I missed a word in spelling, the first word I'd missed that term, and had to go to the foot of the class. But by the time we had started home, I had made up my mind to one thing, that if I could not have a party with everything open and above board, I did not want one at all, and so I told the girls that I had changed my mind and did not want them to have a surprise party for me. They coaxed and teased, but I was firm. I was sorry that Annie had baked a cake, and I hated to disappoint them, but I did not want a party. The girls were cross with me, and I felt miserable when Annie turned in her gate without saying goodbye. Not a word was said at home all that evening about my birthday being so near. Even Charlie didn't tease me about what he would do, such as ducking me in the rain barrel as he always did. I thought everyone had forgotten all about my birthday. But Friday morning, just before I started to school, my sister Aggie gave me a plain little handkerchief that she had sewed. When Mother gave me a pair of common home knit stockings, which were like socks, I thought I would cry right out before everybody instead of waiting until I got started to school. Annie and Callie were in a good humor again, and as pleasant as could be, but I felt so unhappy that I didn't notice that the girls at school seemed strangely happy and excited. When I finally did notice it, I was afraid that Annie and Callie had gone ahead with plans for the party. I accused them of this, but they denied it. No, we didn't do another thing about the party, they declared, but they looked at each other and laughed when they said it, and I didn't believe them. You did, I said. You know you did. Honestly, we didn't, Callie insisted. Here's some of the cake that I baked for your party that we didn't have, said Annie. Now will you believe us? I brought you girls each a piece, and she handed us each a slice of delicious yellow sponge cake decorated with red candies. Mother had given me an errand to do at the store on my way home, so it was later than usual when, hungry and tired, I opened the kitchen door. Mother met me and took my bundles and books. Take your wraps off here, Sarah, she said. Aggie has company in the sitting room. I didn't hear anyone talking, but I took off my coat. Then Aggie called me, and I went into the sitting room, and I stopped in amazement just inside the door. In the center of the room was a table set with Mother's best linen and china and silver. While I gazed at it out from the hall, rushed Annie and Callie and 7 other little girls dressed up in their Sunday frocks. Each one thrust some sort of package toward me. I couldn't say a word. I just burst into tears. I went upstairs with Mother to wash my face and put on my best dress. She told me Aggie had written invitations and Charlie had carried them to the girls that morning. Then I told Mother all about the party we had planned to have. She said not to think any more about it, but that she was glad I had told her. We played games. Button, who's got the button, and hide the thimble. Then we asked riddles and had a good time. After that we had supper. There were cold roast chicken, tiny hot biscuits, and peach preserves, 3 kinds of cake, and hot chocolate. Mother and Aggie had given me those presents in the morning just to fool me. Aggie had bought me a lovely storybook, and Mother had a string of pretty pink beads for me. Charlie gave me a little basket he had whittled out of a peach seed, and from Father I got a silver dollar. I was delighted with all my gifts, but the thing that made me happiest of all was knowing that I had honored my parents. She felt like she had to come clean, didn't she, with her mama and tell the truth about the party, or that she just couldn't enjoy it. That makes sense, to be honest. Let's see. We have... I believe, yeah, this is our last story in this book, and it's Lighthouse Girl, and it's by Laura A. Large. And a lighthouse is a big, tall building, and it's round, and it's not that big around, but it's really tall, and it's where they shine a light at the top so the ships that are out at the sea can see it and know, oh, if there's light there, there's rock there. And we don't want to hit the rock in our boat, so we'll stay far away and we'll direct the boat out this way. So, and this is called the Lighthouse Girl. Upon a lonely rock off the northeast coast of England, there stands a lighthouse in the midst of deep sea waters. For many years the light from its tower has shone far out upon the sea in a friendly way. Be careful in these waters. There are dangerous rocks about, the friendly light seems to say. A family of 3 once lived in the lighthouse to keep it in good order and to watch the light in the tower. There was the father, Mr. Darling was his name. There was the mother, and there was the daughter, Grace. When the waters were stormy, Mr. Darling would not leave the light alone by day or by night. He knew that he must be on watch so that the lighthouse might do its work well. He was a faithful lighthouse keeper. He taught his daughter to be brave and ready to do her part. It was well that Grace Darling had been taught to be brave, for there were dangers all about her lighthouse home. The sea waters became very angry at times, and they beat against the rock as if they meant to wash it away or dash it to pieces. One night a terrible storm came up. The sea roared and the waves beat upon the rock with a mighty force. The cold waters of the northern sea leaped into the air. There seemed to be water everywhere. The lighthouse stood silent but firm in the midst of the terrible storm. It seemed to be trying to make the friendly beam of its tower light reach farther than ever across the waters. Mr. Darling, the lighthouse keeper, and his daughter Grace were awake and on the lookout for anyone who might be in trouble. I do hope no ships will try to pass through these waters tonight, Grace and her father must have thought as they heard the roaring sounds all about them. The rocks are dangerous enough in fair weather, but in a storm like this it would go hard with even the best of ships. From time to time the keeper and his daughter looked through the big marine glasses to see if there were any ships in sight. For a long while nothing could be seen but the dark shadowy waters lighted by the rays of the lighthouse tower. Grace Darling was about to leave her father for the night when she gave a cry, for she had caught sight of a ship, not a strong sturdy ship plowing its way through the waves, but a poor wrecked vessel that had broken in two upon one of the big rocks. Grace Darling almost shouted, "A wreck! A wreck!" she cried. She looked through the glasses eagerly. "People are clinging to the ship. They will drown, Father. Father, what shall we do?" she cried. "We must save them. We must save them." Mr. Darling was dismayed at the terrible sight and alarmed at the thought of launching a rescue boat at such a time. He knew that he could not row a boat alone upon such a sea, and he hated the thought of allowing his only daughter to risk her life. Grace Darling was not afraid. "I will go with you. You must let me go," she cried. There was no time to lose. Mr. Darling gave his daughter an oar, and he himself took one. Upon the raging waters they launched their boat. They forgot about their own danger, so eager were they to rescue the people who would surely be lost if help did not come quickly. After the hardest struggle that Grace Darling or her father had ever known, the little boat reached the spot where the people were clinging to the pieces of the broken vessel. There were 8 men and 1 woman. Even then Grace Darling and her father did not think of their own danger. They took the woman and 4 of the men first. Then they returned to the wrecked boat a second time for the 4 men who were left. It takes but a short time to tell of it, but it was a terrible task. The little boat almost upset many times, and Mr. Darling and his daughter were panting from the hard work of pushing it through the rough waters. Grace Darling was drenched to the skin and numb with the cold long before she reached the lighthouse the second time. She was faint too, and could scarcely stand when she left the boat. But there was a happy crowd in the lighthouse that night. One of the rescued men told how the lighthouse had helped to keep them from the rocks for a long time, but that the wind and waves had been too strong for the vessel. They told how thankful they were that the lighthouse had been built on that lonely spot, and they all praised the keeper and his brave daughter. She did a very brave and hard task, even to be a young girl, didn't she? Let's see. What do we have time for? Let's read this one. This one is a Dr. Seuss one. Oh, the Places You'll Go. It's talking about as we grow up and get older and the things that we can do. It's something that one of my sisters gave one of my children. for Christmas, it looks like. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the guy. You'll decide where to go. You look up and down streets, look 'em over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along, you'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up, you'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to great heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be the best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch, and your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are then you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You will come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark. A place you can sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right and 3/4, or maybe not quite, or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you will find, for a mind maker upper to make up his mind. You can get so confused that you'll start in to race down long wiggly roads at a breaknecking pace, and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, toward a most useless place, the waiting place. For people just waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and stay, and you'll find the bright places where boom bands are playing. With banner flip-flapping, once more you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky, ready because you're the kind of a guy. Oh, the places you'll go, there is fun to be done, there are points to be scored, there are games to be won, and the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame. You'll be famous as famous can be, with the whole wide world watching you win on TV. Except when they don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too, games you can't win because you'll play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not, alone will be something you'll be quite a lot, and when you're alone there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you will go through the weather be foul, on you will go though your enemies prowl, on you will go through the hack and crass howl, onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On and on you will hike, and I know you'll hike far and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go, but so be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And you will succeed, yes you will indeed, 98 3/4% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. I think that's an inspiring book. And I think I've mentioned before, Dr. Seuss, last I heard, he sold more children's books than any other author, and that's a lot. You'll think about how famous the Madeline books are, and Winnie the Pooh, and so many good others, and to think that, he has sold more, and they rhyme and they're fun to read, and so it's not that surprising that that's a pretty awesome thing. Let's read the Bernstein Bears' New Neighbors. I think that's got an important lesson in it. It says, uh-oh, some nearby neighbors moved away. Now who's coming here to stay? And this is by Stan and Jan Bernstein. New Neighbors. I wonder how long it will be empty, said Sister Bear. She was talking about the house across the road. The family that had lived there had moved to Big Bear City. Now the house was empty and had a for sale sign on it. It's hard to say, said Papa Bear. I don't think it will be empty very long, said Mama. It's a very nice house. I just hope whoever moves in has cubs, said Brother Bear. Especially girls, said Sister. Just then Mrs. Matt Bear, the real estate person, drove up and stopped in front of the empty house. She got out of the car and hammered a sold sign over the for sale sign. How about that, said Papa. Somebody bought it already. He called across the road. Say, Mrs. Matt Bear, who will be moving in? Hi, Bear family, she said. Can't talk right now, too busy. Then she got into her car, waved, and drove away. Said Papa. That's not like Mrs. Matt Bear. She usually has plenty to say. Maybe she doesn't know who will be moving in, suggested Mama. Of course she knows, said Papa. Whoever it is, she sold them the house, didn't she? I suppose, said Mama, but I don't know what difference it makes. It makes a lot of difference, said Papa. It's important who your neighbors are. I just hope whoever moves in has cubs, said Brother. Especially girls, said Sister. Over the next few days, the Bears went about their business. Papa worked in his wood shop. Mama had a lot of tulip bulbs she wanted to put in. Brother and Sister went to school in the morning and came home in the afternoon. Once in a while, they wondered what their new neighbors would be like. Would they be young or old? Would they be friendly, or would they keep to themselves? Hey, said Brother early one morning, our new neighbors are moving in, and they do have cubs. Sister ran to the window. Any girls, she said. Yep, said Brother, 2 girls and 1 boy. And look, the boy's into sports. At least he's kicking a soccer ball around. Come on, sis, let's go over and play. Now, hold on, please, said Mama, who had joined the cubs at the window. But, Mama, said Sister, it's Saturday, and we don't have to go to school. We've got to give them a chance to get moved in, Mama said. They do look like a lovely family. We'll all go over later and welcome them. Said Papa, looking out of the window. Now, who do you suppose they are, he added in a grumpy tone of voice, and what do you suppose they're doing here? Well, said Mama, I suppose they're the Panda family, because that's what they've just painted on their mailbox. As far as what they're doing, I suppose they're doing the same thing we are, living here. What's the matter, Papa? Asked Sister. Don't you like them? That's not it, he said. It's just that they're different, that's all. Well, different or not, said Mama, as they sat down for breakfast. They're our new neighbors, and later today we're going to welcome them with a jar of our special honey. Besides, she continued, I thought you liked things to be different. When we were at the bulb farm, you complained when I wanted to buy all yellow tulips. Get different colors, you said. The cubs agreed with you, so I got yellow, red, and blue. Papa didn't say anything. He just kept eating and looking grumpy. And you always use different kinds of wood in your furniture work, she went on. And if we have the same thing for dinner 3 nights in a row, you say, not the same thing again. Why can't we have something different? That's different, grumbled Papa as he left the breakfast table. Just look at that, would you, he said, looking out the window. Before you start giving away all of our special honey, I think you should have a look at what our new neighbors are doing. They've hardly moved in, and they're building a fence, a spike fence. What is a spike fence, Papa? Asked Sister. Mama looked out the window and saw that pandas did seem to be putting up some sort of fence, though it didn't look like any fence she'd ever seen. It looked more like a row of sticks. A spike fence, said Papa, is a fence that bad neighbors put up just for spite. They do it just to be mean and keep decent folks from seeing what they're up to. I'm sure there's an explanation, Mama said. She was back in the kitchen putting a big red bow on a jar of special honey. Said Papa. I was saving that honey for a special occasion. New neighbors are a special occasion, she said. Hi, neighbors, said Brother. We're Brother and Sister Bear. He and Sister had decided not to wait for the family welcoming visit. We live in that big tree house across the road. I'm Peter Panda, said the new cub. These are my sisters, Pam and Patty. The new cubs were very friendly, and pretty soon one and all were busy talking about the things cubs talk about. It turned out that Peter Panda not only had a soccer ball, he was a soccer whiz, but he didn't know much about baseball or football. He agreed to show Brother some soccer moves if Brother would teach him about baseball and football. Sister Pam and Patty were already working up a sweat jumping rope. And it turned out that the spike fence wasn't even a fence. It was a row of bamboo. It's our favorite food, explained Peter. Mom is a great bamboo cook. She must have 50 recipes. Our favorite food is honey, said Brother. We're going to bring you a jar of it later. That afternoon, the whole Bear family came over to welcome their new neighbors with a jar of special honey. The Bears and the Pandas had a very pleasant visit. Even Papa had a good time. He found Mr. Panda, who had traveled all over the world, to be a very interesting fellow, and he especially enjoyed the chilled bamboo juice that Mr. Panda served. Mama arranged a neighborhood welcome at the community center for the next weekend. It was a covered dish supper, and Mrs. Panda's barbecued bamboo shoots were the hit of the evening. So Papa was being all grouchy because they weren't bears like him, wasn't he? He was thinking, I'm not going to like them. But he had to give it a chance and find out he did like them, and that they were nice people. And that's how life is sometimes. But we still don't talk to strangers. Papa's an adult, so that was a little different. Now, or a lot different. Well, that is all that we do have time for today. And so thank you for joining me for Storytime with Nanny. And I do hope to see you next time. And I hope you have a great, blessed day.